Hey, everybody, welcome back to Starting a Counseling Practice podcast, where we bring on amazing therapists from across the country and around the world to share their journey, the good, the bad, the unexpected of private practice. I'm really excited today to hang out with Erin Everhart. Erin, share a little bit about your practice, where you're located, and your domain name for anybody who wants to go and stalk you while we're chatting.
Hi, Miranda. So excited to be here. So I got started in private practice 7 years ago, and I officially launched in 2020, which I think was a great launching point for a lot of therapists. My brand name is Every Heart Dreams Counseling. And I chose it. My name is Erin Everhart, right? So it's kind of a spin off of my last name. But I also thought that it was inspiring. And I wanted to choose something that kind of spoke to people having a dream, people having a calling. And, you can do what you want to do with your life. You can live your dreams and your passions and just go for it.
Awesome, because that's what you're doing, right?
hmm And I'm also located in Dorado Hills. I didn't include that part.
That's in California for any of you
Uh,
not in California. So we're talking to a California therapist, started in 2020. When you go back to why you decided to become a therapist in 1 minute or less, what would you want to share
Mhm.
with the people listening?
So I knew you were going to ask me this because you ask it a lot. Um, but I think the biggest thing is that being a therapist is kind of always, it's been a way of life for me. I grew up kind of being the therapist's daughter, right? The therapist's friend. So I suppose it was my calling. I actually took a Myers-Briggs test when I was 14. I was a freshman in high school, and my Myers-Briggs suggested that the best fit profession for me was being a counselor. And I looked at it and I was like, I don't know what this is. What does it mean to be a counselor? But then I read the description and I was like, oh, yeah, that's me.
That's beautiful. Yeah, apparently I was talking about it from a very young age, but I think I wasn't around any therapists. So I'm always like, how did I know what a psychologist was? Like, I don't know what any of those
hmm
things are. Like, it's just kind of
Right.
wild how life's. So
Yeah. And
tell
those
us,
personality tests too.
right? Tell us about why private practice and why in 2020.
So I was already working for a group practice prior to launching on my own. And then 2020 rolled around. There was a lot going on that year, obviously. And we were in the middle of the pandemic, but also I had just given birth to my third child.
Mm.
And so she was my pandemic baby. I was working from home and I really loved the flexibility that that actually provided for me during that time. I know it was a crazy time for the world, but it also offered me more flexibility as far as being able to work at home. And so I decided, well, I'm already kind of doing this group practice, right? I've been doing it for a while. All my clients transitioned to online. And then I was talking to the group practice owner and we were coming up with some strategies. But basically, she encouraged me to start launching my own practice on the side, which was great. And I started getting some side clients and then eventually got an office when we were able to go back in person in 2021.
Awesome. What was one of the most surprising things that you found as you started your own low side practice?
So I think I was kind of surprised by the flood of inquiries during that time. I actually wasn't expecting to get that many calls initially. But I think because we were in this time of crisis, right? And a lot of people were looking for help. A lot of people needed help. I was doing business school boot camp with you guys. I really felt that that propelled me to put myself out there. Whereas I think I wouldn't have necessarily during that time when
Mm.
I had just given birth and all those factors. But it did really encourage me and push me. And once I did put myself out there, I realized that I was able to do this, and I was getting calls, and people needed to see a therapist. They wanted to see me.
Mm. How did that feel to realize that people were, going and looking, but not just looking, but they were seeing you and going, that is the person that I want to call. Like this person really wants to connect with me and work with me.
Yeah. I mean it was crazy. I felt a little bit of the imposter syndrome, right? Like I think we all do. Um, but at the same time, I knew like this was what I was meant to do. And I could actually do this. And I'd been working for a group practice. I had all the clinical training. I had seen behind the scenes, for how to run the business, and I was getting the business coaching. And so I actually felt pretty motivated during that time and inspired. And these people were calling to see me, like you said, and I was like, whoa, okay. They want to see me. They're choosing me. That's cool.
Mhm. How long did it take, but after starting your side practice before you transitioned fully over to your practice?
So it actually took a while. I I started my side launch in 2020 in September, and then it wasn't until September of 2021, actually, that I fully launched on my own. Um, I was going very slowly and cautiously, and I was still part of the group practice. And at one point, I think I was seeing like 35 clients a week.
Oh.
It was kind of insane. And I was like, okay, so I'm still doing the group, but I was still committed to it, right? Taking on all these people over there and then taking on my clients, right? So eventually there comes to be the push and shove question of, well, when do I actually launch? And for me, I had to, I think, build that confidence in myself and know that I would be okay being on my own. It was a little hard leaving the group. I was very connected to the group, and I had a close relationship with the business owner. And we had talked about things like doing a business partnership and opening up, a branch of her practice. But ultimately, I decided that it was time for me to fly.
How, if it's available for public consumption, what were some of the things that you considered to decide it's time for me to fly versus doing a partnership?
Hmm. Well, it was a bit of a process. I think again, I had very strong ties to the group because I was the first clinician in her practice. And I also felt that we had a pretty close personal relationship, which can be hard in a business setting. And so, um, so it was a little bit challenging, but ultimately, I think we both came to this conclusion that it would be better if I just did my own practice. Um, and I was in a different town at that point. We're still in the same area, and I still consult with my former group practice owner. She's a mentor for me still. And so I'm glad that we were able to retain that relationship while also, you know, having me launch. And really just fly and go out there and do it. I think I just needed to be pushed. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, many of us do. I definitely needed that for sure. What have you noticed over the last, 4 years or 3.5 years in terms of your marketing and that transition from the panic of 2020 until, right now we're recording this in
Hmm.
June of 2025 in terms of marketing and
Mm.
people calling for therapy? What changes have you seen?
Yeah, I think there have been a number of changes. But ultimately my practice has remained stable. I've actually had a few individuals join me over the years. And so, that's helped, I think, with the consistency of the practice and bringing in more people, attracting more clients, because I have some additional support in offering more, you know, um, niches and appealing to different populations.
Hmm.
And so that I think has really helped even in times of transition and in the ebbs and flows of the practice itself. I generally see a trend where we get a lot of clients. I see a lot of kids and teens, right, and families, and we get a lot of clients in the fall because that's really the push when everyone's going back to school and there's a big transition and things are changing and kids are getting stressed out. And then come January and right after the holidays, it kind of tapers off a little bit, right? People have just had their holidays and there's changes with insurance and private pay. So sometimes people go back to their insurances. And then in the spring, we see another big boost, right? And everybody's getting frantic and okay, finals are coming up and it's like the end of the school year and all of this stuff going on. And then in the summer, I see it slow down. So that ebb and flow has remained pretty consistent throughout all 4.5 years that
Hmm.
I've been in practice. And I have not seen that many changes with that pattern, which has actually been really reassuring for me because I know when it when it dips down, I don't freak out anymore and say, "Oh, I'm going to totally dry up."
Right? It's an interesting piece, and we found some of our business schoolers who do kids will have different offerings in the summer as
Mhm.
well. So some of them are doing like summer camps and summer programs because people are looking for that over therapy during the summer. So it's an interesting way
Right,
we
right.
can transition things, right?
Yeah,
Spaces
that's a
and
good idea.
yeah, and then even like planning our vacations around that space of like, oh, I want to take a 2 week vacation. That would
Hmm.
be, you might think, oh, the beginning of the year seems like not a great time. Actually, for me, it's one of the best times for me right after the holidays.
Exactly. Take January
Yeah.
off. That'd be nice.
Yeah, right? Why not? Oh my goodness. So, when you think about the like we were talking beforehand and you had said
Uh-huh.
that how you found Zinni Me was through this podcast, right?
Yes.
And that was part of how you decided to join. And maybe even a little bit about what inspired you for private practice, right? But
Yeah.
if you're thinking about somebody who's listening to the podcast right now, who's kind of feeling that like, oh, I don't know, is it time? I'm not sure what to do. What advice would you have for someone who was in that same kind of space that you were in all those years ago?
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. So whether, they're coming from community mental health, whether they've had experience in group practice, in private practice, I would say that the biggest thing is to get the tools, right? Get the resources that you need, do some business coaching, I really like the business school boot camp for therapists and the model just because it does outline exactly what you need, right? And what you need to know. And then also, you guys are just very authentic and real, and there's no like bullshit about it. And so I loved that. I love that piece because you want to get the training and you want to get the tools so that you can apply that to really being able to start a business, right? This therapy as a business. And then we have all the clinical skills already, right? And so I would just say everything else is going to fall into place. You have the passion, you have the drive, you're a helper, you are a therapist, and that is such a needed thing. And it always will be, right? It always will be, despite having all of the um, things that we're seeing today, like those third parties, the big like companies that are marketing to kind of slim down therapy in a sense and detract from that experience of having the one-to-one, but there will always be a need for the one-to-one in office, um, in person, therapy.
Agreed. I think especially post COVID and post a lot of things have happened relationally and to our communities,
Hmm.
and to like navigate that experience and find something that's really sustainable and even work through that as like
Yes.
kids and teens who are like my child did a drive-through graduation for eighth grade and
Yeah.
like
Oh.
didn't, freshman year was at home and then they went in, but they were like there, but not there. And like
Mm,
some kids did great bouncing back from that. And then
mm,
other kids were like, oh, this socially, this I was already going to
yeah.
struggle, but you put some extra weight on there. And it's really hard to like navigate.
Yeah.
And
It
we're
was
not going to
pretty
learn how
disruptive.
to
Mhm.
yeah, we're not going to learn people skills through ChatGPT. Like we can maybe hear about people skills from ChatGPT, but we're not going to learn the relational piece by not sitting across from like a real human.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's
beautiful.
a good point. A lot of good points. And I've seen that too, even 5 years out from the pandemic, the kids are still talking about how disruptive that time was. It really just changed their schedules and their lives and the consistency factor that's so needed for kids, right? And so we're still kind of healing from that, from all of that. Um, that went on.
Yeah. It was really interesting. Okay, this might be an aside, but I thought it was really interesting. And maybe it was a deep fake. I'm not sure. Oh gosh, I can't remember what his name is. A very well known, oh, Gary Vandercheck or what have you. Very like big internet, just businessy guy. And he was like, mark my words, your grandchild will be marrying an AI robot. And you're just like, wait, what are you talking about? And then I was like sitting with it. And there is actually like in my social group, they were talking about this man, this older man that is in love with his AI bot. That's like this
Oh
online
boy.
AI that
Yeah.
he created. And the
Mm-hmm.
way that he talks about this entity is just
Hmm.
really interesting. And so people are like, are you in love with your
Yeah.
AI thing? And he was like, yeah, yeah, yes, I am. Absolutely.
Wow. That's a little haunting, and it's actually Big Brother-esque, right? Like kind of taking it back to 1984, seeing into the future through the lens of the past, and it's just it's like, wow, have we really gotten that far away from that?
It's really wild, but I also think like when I think about that piece and I think about like what we do as a profession, right? Our ability to help people to drop into their nervous system, to learn how to be related, to learn how to co-regulate, to know what it feels like to have another human across the room, to have them notice that we are dysregulated, even if we think everything looks right on our face, that they're just like, hey, what's happening? I'm like, you're not okay. Like that, like what we do is really magical. And it's not something that I don't know when it would I don't believe it's going to be something that can be really brought into AI. It's going to not be brought into the AI therapist or the chat GPT. Like what we do is really magical. And I think we need to really honor it. And I think if you can go and work for one of those big online tech companies and you are well paid and you are honored and you are taken care of and you are working a sustainable caseload, fantastic. But I talk to very few people that that's the case for.
Right, right.
And yet they're giving their labor and a percentage of their profits to a company that
Mm-hmm.
has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to make therapy more accessible while burning therapists out. That's not right.
Right. And we don't need more burnout in this field.
Not at all. Not at all. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just so excited we got to chat today, Erin.
Me
Thank
too.
you all for listening. I hope you feel really inspired. Um, say your domain, your URL, Erin, if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah. So it's everyheartdreamscounseling.com. And that's kind of long to remember. So I also have the domain of everyheartdreams.com. Um, and so that's all one word. And then I also have an Instagram account. It's at Erin Everhart LMFT or at Every Heart Dreams. And you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook as well.
Fantastic. And of course, we'll have all this in the show notes. If you're looking for support, we have free webinars, free CEs. We've got our business school for therapists. Please know there's support in creating something that's really loving and sustainable for you, that makes your heart sing, so that you can go and heal the world, y'all.
Nice.